Hey vinyl friends and vinyl community, it's Brian from Brian's Vinyl Records, and I'm here again with another contest entry. This one is called The Day the Music Died and is being put on by Happy Hippie, the vinyl guy. You can check out the contest right below here in the comments section, so please do that. This is kind of a fun one. This is name 2 or 3 artists who passed away and it hit you hard. And also 2 or 3 or however many you want that also passed away that were a big deal in the music industry that maybe didn't hit you as hard but had an impact. So after the break I'll come back and I'll share with you a stack of records that I've pulled out to show you about artists who meant something to me and artists who passed away. All right, welcome back. So the contest is to name 2 or 3 artists that passed away that had a big impact on you when you heard the news, and kind of to the point where maybe you remember where you are or what you were doing or anything like that. To me, my memory is not as good as it used to be, so I may not know the exact details, but I do know some of this. And these are artists that meant a lot to me that had passed away. So I'm going to start off with a band that I saw back in 1994. Motley Crue was out on their own doing a small venue tour with new singer John Corabi. And I really enjoyed, as if anyone needs more explanation, John Corabi as the lead singer of Motley Crue. And so I went to that show. The opening act of that show came out on stage and blew me and my buddy away. So much to the point where the next day both of us went out and bought their album at the time. That album was Bloody Kisses, the band was Typo Negative, and the singer is Peter Steele. And I remember I was at work when I found out that Peter Steele had passed away. I believe he was 47, 48 years old when it happened. And they had just come out with a new album not long before his passing, and I believe they were in process of writing for the next record when it happened. They had just finished their tour, and unfortunately Peter passed. I believe it was heart failure. I was numb when I read that news because these guys are one of those bands that I saw back in 1994 and continued to follow all the way through. I bought every album that they had put out on CD that I could get my hands on first day when it was released. That's how much I really enjoyed Typo Negative's music and how much of an impact they had on me, not only as a musician, but as a music fan. So when he passed away, it was a really big deal to me. Can't say enough about Typo Negative and Peter Steele. Just that one hit hard. The next album is an artist that, well, I live, if you don't know, in Minnesota, born and raised a Minnesotan, and there's one artist from Minnesota that stands above everyone else, and in fact only lives about a 7 or 8 minute drive away from my house, or lived, I should say. And that, of course, is Prince. I remember to this day, I was sitting there, and the news came on, the radio. Actually, I believe I saw it through Twitter that were reports that he had passed away. I woke up in the morning to find those reports on my Twitter feed, and I was scourging all over to find out more information, what had happened, all that kind of stuff. Now, I hadn't been a huge Prince fan over the last 10, 15 years leading up to that point. I was a huge fan in the 90s, 80s, that time frame when some of his best music was out, some of his biggest hits were out. So I had kind of fallen off the Prince bandwagon, and when that news hit, I was just grief-stricken that he had passed away at such a young age, and really shocked to hear the circumstances of his passing. Didn't expect to hear that he would OD on anything or have any of those kind of problems. So just really shocked, really saddened too, because this is an artist who, like I said, lived 7-8 minute drive from me, had parties all the time where fans were allowed into Paisley Park, and they would have all-nighters where he would have his band set up and music playing all night. And in the morning, the stories are that he would wake up and he would bake pancakes for everyone. He would make pancakes in the morning for anyone who was still there. What a interesting human being he was. And I just remember his passing was a big blow, not only to music fans, but to Minnesota. I mean, he was an ambassador to this state. And so just a big loss for everyone in the music world. All right, the next one I want to show you was a major, major loss for me. And the reason was, growing up, I had one musical idol in my life. One person who, above all, was my favorite artist, and to this day is still one of my top favorite artists of all time. He may not be the greatest human being in the world. We don't really know. There's evidence on both sides that we don't know. But I'm talking about Michael Jackson. And when he passed away, I was shattered. This is my childhood right here. This album is my childhood. I grew up a huge, huge Michael Jackson fan. I saw him live on this tour. It was my first ever concert. Michael Jackson, my dad took me. I was just 10 years old when the tour happened, and it changed everything for me musically. He was the reason I wanted to be a singer. He's the reason I wanted to be musically inclined. And a great deal of my love for music comes from Michael Jackson. And when he passed away, I was devastated, just devastated that happened, especially given the news that he was prepping for a massive farewell tour that was going to be like some 50 dates in London, and then the possibility of him bringing it, if that went well, into the States and stuff, and being able to have a chance to see him live again would have been amazing. But sadly, it did not happen. Again, an OD on drugs, whether the doctor gave him to him or not, it was his call, and he did what he did to feel comfortable in life. Sadly, it wasn't the right choice. So Michael Jackson, major, major blow to me. So that's the big ones for me. Now, there's other big ones for me too, and I'm just going to go in there, but the details of when I heard and things like that aren't exactly as clear as the three I showed you earlier. But they impacted me nonetheless, because these were artists and albums from my childhood that I loved, and even artists that I followed to that day. And so the first one I wanted to show is this is Warrant's Cherry Pie album. Jani Lane passing was a big one for me. Warrant, he wasn't in Warrant anymore, and I'd actually seen Warrant without Jani Lane in concert, and they're great. But nothing will replace Jani Lane as far as frontmen go, and just that voice and everything else. And when he passed away, it was a huge blow to the metal world. And so Jani Lane of Warrant was a big one. This one was crushing for me. I don't remember the details on how I learned or any of that stuff, but his passing was a major, major bummer for both me and my friends in my group, because we were huge, huge fans of this band. And I'm talking about Layne Staley from Alice in Chains. Alice in Chains was the group that got me to listen to grunge music. I was a huge heavy metal rock fan, and when grunge came around, I was pissed. I hated it and didn't want to give it the light of day. But these guys turned me on to that type of music, and it became one of my favorite types of music, believe it or not, throughout my high school and college years. And even to this day, I collect a lot of the 90s grunge and alternative rock bands' musics because of Alice in Chains and Layne Staley. And his passing, that was a heartbreaker, and I'm so glad that after several years they put another their band back together and got William Duvall in there, because William Duvall is fantastic, and they're writing awesome music again, and I'm so glad for it, because Alice in Chains, Jerry Cantrell, and the gang are phenomenal, and I think Layne would have wanted them to continue on as a band whether he was there or not. So Layne Staley. The next one is a recent one, and I wasn't a huge follower or fan of the band per se. I loved their earlier stuff. I loved the first album specifically, and when I heard he passed away, I was just in shock, because he was so young, and the word going around is that he had hung himself, and it was just like, wow, like, how can that even happen in today's world? It just didn't seem like it was logical, but it did. And I'm talking about Chris Cornell of Soundgarden. I love Soundgarden early stuff, and I really enjoy Chris Cornell's solo stuff as well. But that was a hard one to take, and especially listening to the radio reports and the people talking, it was a huge blow for the music world. And last but not least, this is a band I have a love-hate relationship with, and it's more of a despise relationship with. And, it's not because they stink or anything like that. I just don't get the hoopla or the hype or the music behind this band, except for one album and a couple other songs. And I'm talking about Kurt Cobain and Nirvana. I love this album. Even though it ruined my world as a middle schooler, I still love this album. It's a fantastic album. I've tried my damnedest to really get into them post this and pre this. I just can't. They're just too weird for me. This is by far the most commercial thing they ever did, and I really enjoy it. It's great. But I also own In Utero, and there are a couple songs on there I really, really like, but there's a lot of stuff on there I just don't it just over my head. I don't get it. And I've tried Bleach several times, just can't get it. And I absolutely despise the Incesticide album, even though I own that on cassette tape somewhere. But Nirvana, no doubt, made a huge impact on this world. And I love Dave Grohl's stuff. I love the Foo Fighters and all that. But I couldn't get into them like everyone else. And, but I don't begrudge anyone who loves these guys. I have plenty of people I know who absolutely love Nirvana. But for me, just don't get it. But a huge blow to the music world. So those are the ones I pulled out. There are tons more over there that I could get into that have an impact on me and my musical styles. But I wanted to keep this kind of short, so we're already approaching about 12-15 minutes here. I don't want to keep you too long, so that's it. Again, check out Happy Hippie, the Vinyl Guy. Link below in the comments to this challenge, and go ahead and submit one. I'd love to see what you think and some of the bands that really hurt you when the artist passed away. You can do that. So if you enjoyed the video, I thank you. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Leave a comment or a like. What did you think of my list? All that good stuff. So thanks again. Big shout out again to Dan's Vinyl channel for giving me a plug in one of his latest videos. I appreciate that more than anyone can say. So thank you for watching, and until next time, keep spinning, vinyl friends.